On today's episode of Project Pundits Unplugged.
The only thing my Apple Watch rewards me for, it says, congratulations, you met your stand goal for the day.
Jim stands for what's right.
You stood far just as long as we were hoping you could get on your feet. That's awesome.
So how
many pills do you take a day?
So I can't. So it's actually quite amazing. It's quite, I cover 70% of the alphabet.
And tinfoil hat theories on artificial intelligence.
It's not a stretch to see how a semi-intelligent AI who gets some sort of awareness with these types of devices now, cameras, anything connected, like my ice maker is connected. I have a Opal like profile ice maker, and it's connected. Like
no ice in your gym.
Or I'm gonna
No! So welcome everyone. I'm kicking this thing off officially. Welcome to episode 4 of the Project Pundits Unplugged podcast, and this is our episode, mostly unfiltered career advice. We're going to talk a little bit today about some of the reasons why you may or may not decide that project management, program management, this general career path may or may not be right for you. We're hopeful that the discussion, aside from illuminating those who are potentially interested in doing it, may also help people who are interested in progressing on their current career path, as well as maybe others who are trying to figure out, hey, what are all those PMs about and why do I have them and what is it that they do? Jim, anything else that you can think of that we're going to talk about today?
No, I think we're gonna broadly cover a lot of different things. I think there are certain elements, as usual, with our topics where a deeper dive is warranted, and we'll do those as appropriate in future episodes. But we got to keep Braden from meandering off on too many tracks because he likes to pontificate.
To express one's opinions in a way considered annoyingly pompous or dogmatic. Yep.
That's all I do is pontificate. Let's jump in. Let me start out by talking a little bit about some of the benefits of project management. We'll leave Jim to talk about the drawbacks. That's just usually how these things are ordered around here. Some of the things that if you're interested in project management, here are some of the good parts, depending on your personality. Maybe some of these you might see as drawbacks. One of the first ones is that there's always a new challenge when you're a project manager. So every time, as project managers and program managers, typically you're dealing with something new on some sort of cycle. It could be every 3 months, every year, sometimes less frequently, often more frequently than that, where you're dealing with new things. That could be a new initiative overall. It could be new technologies. It could be new problems that you're trying to solve, but there's constantly new things that are being thrown at you. The new technologies that you get to learn, every new project typically, not every new project, but often new projects will introduce you to new technologies. You have the opportunity, especially those who have motivation and want to say, hey, here's an opportunity for me to actually broaden my exposure, my education, and ultimately I'd say your value. You get to learn new technologies with every new project that you have and be conversant at them. Maybe you're not coding in that technology, but as a PM, you can at least understand how it can be applied, what you can do with it, and ultimately understand the pros and cons, the drawbacks of certain types of technologies. Project management involves lots of human interaction. If human interaction is your thing, you like people and you like regularly interacting with people, project management's a great place to be. Most of my days as a project manager are filled with interacting directly with other individuals. I do not spend a lot of my time, occasionally I'll be in front of PowerPoint or project. You have administrative days where I might be doing a lot of administrative work, but most of my day is spent talking with other people interacting with them, with all of their attendant challenging personality quirks. I've worked with Jim directly a number of times.
Here we are.
Look what that's brought, right? I mean, oh my gosh. But that's okay. You can still find good people in your projects too, and that's what I'm hopeful that folks. Did I? Okay, sort of a grin. I didn't really get a big grin. I will say, project management will give you fantastic compensation. I have never had a complaint about the compensation that I've been given as a project manager. Jim, I don't know if you feel the same way. You okay?
I never make enough, but no. I mean, as in a comparison to two different roles, I think compensation wise, and look, the job, and we'll get into it, isn't always easy, but compensation wise, it's you get more than a fair wage. How about that?
I'll just say I've never had complaints about it. Project management will also fairly uniquely expose you, I think, to a broader network than you might in other opportunities. I've served in other project type roles, like as an analyst, as a design lead, and other things. And while you can get some exposure in those roles, the project manager, I think, tends to interact with a really broad set of people across the organization and at different levels, both peers as well as vertically. And as a result, I think it's a really great opportunity, especially if you're skilled at what you do and you come across as competent. You have a great opportunity to expand your network within the project management, program management space.
Yeah, and I'll say, don't forget as well, you're exposed to vendors as well, and that's even broader, right? So you have to usually manage vendors, and you're usually the conduit, or at least one of the conduits for helping them get work done. So it's a great way of building a network even outside of the organization you're working with.
The other thing that I think is unique within the project management space is you tend to learn, if you apply yourself correctly, you tend to learn the business of whatever it is that you're doing, and often the technology as well, much faster than you can in other roles. Jim, do you want to talk us through some of the drawbacks, that the things that are maybe not so fun about project management?
Yeah, and I think there's a few things to touch on, and really this isn't for everybody. I mean, so again, you don't have direct control as a project manager. Almost very rarely. It does happen once in a while. You have people reporting directly to you, but for the most part, you need to get things done with influence, and that is not an easy thing to do. Even if you are right or you think you have the right answers, that doesn't matter.
So for control freaks like Jim,
this
is really it's a tough sticking point.
I love to take control of anything.
It's a very tough sticking point, and you have to really know the difference between influence and manipulation, right? They're very close cousins. In the end, they're similar effects, but one is done with a little less good intentions than the other.
Jim, what percent do you manipulate versus influence? Let's not. Okay, we don't need to go down
I'm
that
only
path.
influencer. I've given up my any sort of manipulation that I've done in the past.
You sit on a throne of lies.
So you have to be comfortable working with ambiguity. Over time, you learn techniques to clarify and put structure around things, but a lot of times in project management, you have to be comfortable operating with ambiguity, filling in gaps. So that's not easy for everyone. Unrealistic expectations is a huge one, right? So a lot of what you need to do is understand what people's expectations are, and if they are so unrealistic, you have to a lot of times figure out how to reset expectations. But you inevitably, there's going to be somebody who has an expectation that is unrealistic you're not going to be able to meet. Ultimately, people are going to look to you as either the responsible or the accountable party. So it's pressure. It's like anything else. So, Braden and I were talking about personal responsibilities not too long ago. It's a similar thing, right? If you're the breadwinner, or you're the person who's responsible for paying rent, and there are people dependent on you, that's pressure, and that's not for everybody as well. But ultimately, as a PM, you are the responsible party. You are, and we've said this before, the CEO or the president of your effort. So that's a difficult thing. Yeah, and we'll flash this up on the screen. There's a comic that my friend Jerry always brings up to me, and he belly laughs at this mainly because it's like a sadistic belly laugh, but it's a comic that says, it's a guy, as you can see, ringing his secretary and said, for the meeting, I need a copy of the agenda, the hidden agenda, and my own twisted personal agenda. And I think it's funny because when you, the more and more you do this, you realize that, again, people come into projects with different agendas for what they want to get out of it, or what they want to get out of their career politically, and you should be aware of all those things. But again, part of your job is to navigate that, understand that, and align people, technologies, processes, all those things to work to the outcomes that you're looking to achieve.
Girls only want boyfriends who have great skills.
Let me share a little bit about some of the qualifications, background, education, certifications, those sorts of things that people might expect you to have as project manager. I'm going to try to share with you the ones that I think are table stakes, the ones that you really are going to need to come to the table with, some that some organizations care about, and then I'll give you my opinion on some that I don't think really matter at all. Again, it's personal opinion, but I will say this comes as a result of, number one, many years of my own hiring, many years of being in organizations that are hiring and knowing what qualifications they're looking for, and also being hired into multiple organizations as well. So I feel at least semi-qualified to share some of the background. As table stakes, you're generally going to be expected to have at least a bachelor's degree in some field. Now, I'll say generally, for the most part, if you're working in an organization, let's say, where most of the project management work that you're going to be doing is in, let's say, an IT field, having a generic information management degree or a related degree somewhere in the management field, if you're doing business, is sort of a common one. But honestly, I think a bachelor's degree at an entry level in any semi-related field is probably the only table stakes that I expect entry-level project managers to have. In addition to that, there are a lot of organizations that will also look at PMP certifications as something that's important to them. If you don't start with it, they'll often encourage you, even fund and pay for you to take the tests, reimburse you, do educational reimbursement. There's lots of organizations that will both emphasize that. And I know Jim and I differ sometimes on training and certifications. I still do think that a lot of the principles involved, particularly in PMBOK, the Project Management Book of Knowledge, I think there's some important and useful principles. I think it gets over-applied, and I honestly, personally, now this is my personal opinion on this, I don't look at someone with a PMP certification and think that person is definitely a better project manager than someone who doesn't. I don't. I say there's someone who's learned principles and terms. Do they know how to apply those? Heaven knows. I couldn't tell you. Do they have the common sense to know when I should do this versus that? I've rarely seen a consistent correlation between someone who has a PMP and is a better project manager than not. So I don't put personal store by it, but I know lots of organizations will look either as table stakes for PMP sometimes, or who will strongly encourage it. So having that is more, I think, of something to say, I check the box and I don't get weeded out by my qualifications. Those are the two things that I think are kind of your baseline table stakes. Beyond that, I think any education that folks come and bring to the table, lots of people have advanced degrees, master's degrees in information management, have tons of, academic learning. Honestly, again, based on my experience, I don't see any benefit at all in the actual hiring of a project manager to do a given heavy, program management experience or some of the more advanced roles that you might have out there. I don't see them winning roles more because they have more education beyond those two table stakes. What I really see is after that, it's people's experience. and I think that is 99%. Could you occasionally get someone who has a really specific mindset and says, "Oh, I would never hire someone who didn't have a degree from Oxford"? This is my when I get into the sort of stuffy, degree mode. I sort of do the nasal thing, but
and how he talks to his children and his
Thank you, exactly.
And his dog.
I do talk to my dog that way.
Quiet down now.
I say there, Roquefort. But in the end, I honestly, based on my experience, this isn't personal opinion, this is actually experience, I have rarely seen where someone's education, advanced education, this means degrees beyond bachelor's and beyond PMP certification, I don't think I've ever seen where that was a deciding factor over someone's experience to have them win a role for a more advanced role.
Not in this career path. In other places, it absolutely is, but
talking
not
specific
in this path.
To project program portfolio management, I do not think that advanced degrees make a significant difference, and I think I can speak from personal experience that that's just not the case.
Yeah, I think I'll just throw one more thing on. You had mentioned PMP certifications. There's program management certifications, and then there's also the Agile, Scrum Master certification. So it's similar type of thing, especially with the growth of DevOps and Agile. Certifications for being a Scrum Master, which is an offshoot of project management, right? Again. Maybe very similar to a PMP, maybe table stakes for some organizations.
Do you want to cover self-evaluation and
start by understanding where your passions lie. I would not recommend chasing project manager because it pays more. That'll quickly get old. It'll quickly get old if you don't have the right temperament or passion for what you're doing, right? So understand where your passion is, and then honestly, if you know where your passions are, you can usually find project management related to what your passion is. That's the ideal thing, right? Because then you're working on projects that are tied to where your passions are. So understand that. Understand where your motivations are. Do you get bored easily? Then project management might be something for you. But honestly, and this is not to disparage accountants, I could never do it. But if you're more comfortable kind of, working with numbers and spreadsheets and everything else, that's not as much of a project management when
Jim lands in purgatory someday, he will be an accountant who, and again, I sound like I'm disparaging accountants. I should pick some, mythical job, but I think I pick accountant because it tends to be, I think, a very stable, regularly repetitive job that Jim would struggle to. Now we're going to get flamed by all the accountants out there. They're going to say
flamed. It's an appropriate choice of words using purgatory. I don't want to go there too much, but yeah. I think if you're a fast learner, huge benefits to being in a project management role because you're going to get thrown a lot of different things at once. Similar tangentially related as well. So, how do you do in stressful situations? Is that something where some people really thrive in them, others struggle, and usually most people are somewhere in the middle of that. But this is a normal situation is to be in a stressful set of scenarios that you have to navigate through. How important, and some of this is related to the type of PM job you're going to get to, but how important is the money to you? Is the money? Is it the money? Is it the type of work? Is it, different things? Just understand how important these things are to you. Is it important for you to be recognized, whether that's by the organization, by your peers, or whatnot? What I'll tell you is recognition is uniquely tied to the culture of the organization you're working with in a very ironic way, and this is worth a sidebar at some point. Those who get recognized typically, I've found in corporations, are what I call white knights, and I have a whole big thing on white knights, and that is basically, I'll overgeneralize. Those are folks who've managed a project what I would consider poorly for 80 to 90% of the project, and then in the last months right before go live, they work 70, 80, 90 hours a week, pull their hair out, and they get the thing over the finish line, even though it's only half of the scope and it's twice the budget, but they pulled it over the finish line, and they get recognized because of all the effort they put in, not the outcome. Whereas if you're good at what you do and you deliver on time and on budget, it's a sad state of affairs, but you're going to be less likely to be recognized because that was the expectation. It's just a weird phenomenon in corporate America. I'd love to eventually, start an effort to change that. But this is what I was talking about, recognition. If that's important to you, you're not going to always be recognized for this. And for those of us who've done this for a long time, I think it's always been more important for me to have the team members be recognized anyways. So I don't really care about that, but that's something to understand about yourself. Show me the money! Show me the money!
Show me the money,
That's
Jim.
right.
That's all
That's
that people
right.
care about. This is we probably have teased this, with all kinds of big things that say, am I making enough money as a project manager? Why aren't I making as much as all? This is it. This is probably what they skip to. Jim, give it to them. Come on.
So I'm gonna be super dry and have a referenceable source. So what's up on the screen is the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics breakdown of median salaries for project managers. This is 2021. It trails a little bit, but they indicate that the median U.S. salary for a project manager in 2021 is $94,500 a year, which is pretty good. I mean, as a median salary generally, with the bottom 10% showing earnings of just under $50,000, $49,750. And the top 10% they show at being around $160,000 a year. I will give you, as a person who's been in all of those roles, and I've negotiated, I've been taken advantage of, I've negotiated my own roles and everything else. I will tell you, there's no one set of answers, and unfortunately, it's circumstantial based upon a lot of times the industry you're in, the complexity of the work, sometimes your skill set and experience. So if you have experience working with a difficult set of technology offerings in a certain space, if you're specialized in biomedical, there's a whole project management career path that's very specialized about how you do quality controls and, go through government approvals and things like that. Braden and I do a lot of work in the healthcare industry. People who understand healthcare and then who specialize and even understand healthcare payers or insurers, and then who may understand how a technology for like a healthcare claim and administration engine work or platform. All of those things contribute to what your expectations around whether it's billable rates or salaries could be. So I will tell you that on the low end, I would say these days I don't see anybody on the lowest contract level making less than $30 an hour, and that would be right out of school, really. For the most part, that's in the 40s or $50 an hour for really early low career and whatnot. Salary wise, again, I think that's pretty accurate of a $49,750. That's probably a good baseline lower end of the spectrum for being a project manager, whether that's titles of project coordinator, project administrator, whatnot. But on the upside, again, it's got another big factor is where you live. Braden lives in California. I live in Massachusetts. Both of those areas have very high cost of living.
Those are both bad examples, Jim.
They're skewed. They're very skewed, right? And so as opposed to I'll say though, Chicago's a lot of the metros where these companies concentrate, right? They're fighting over the same resources and whatnot. So, and then again, the cost of living is much higher, so the expectations are up there. But there's government work which may pay you less, but talk about stability. You could be a project manager, work for a state agency for career, and if you're employed by them, and some of them are even unionized, don't sleep on the side benefits of pensions and all these other benefits like that accrue unbelievably over time. My son does some work for the local town, and just the work he does, we went through his retirement statement since he was working there since he was 14, and I'm blown away. And he was just an hourly town employee. So you need to look at the total compensation. The way you're going to make the most is you're going to build your own network. You're going to form relationships yourself. You're going to find opportunities, and you're going to try to cut out middlemen as much as possible. So when you're early in your career, that's going to be difficult. You're not going to be able to find opportunities. You're going to have to leverage someone who has the relationship with a company in order to identify the opportunities, and you're giving up leverage, and you're giving up some portion of your billable rate because it's going to be split. So I know, Braden, we talked about flashing the big thing up, but I will tell you, those hourly ranges, I'd put them from 30, 40, 50 at the very low end. You can get as high, and I don't want to set unrealistic expectations. You can independently, you can probably get as high as 200 an hour, maybe a little higher, but you really have to be connected and whatnot. Salary wise, again, probably looking at the 50,000 or so a year. As a project manager, you can, an independent contributor, probably up through program manager. I don't know, Braden, I would say you can get to 150, 160, 175, 180. When you start to get north of there, you're usually at a director level, a senior director level, and you're carrying other responsibilities. You're not just managing an effort usually. You're not an independent contributor, an individual contributor. You're a manager of resources. You're carrying multiple projects, multiple people with multiple responsibilities. And in the upside from there, I mean, you with variable compensation, you can go upwards of over 200,000. When you start to progress up there, I would say your ceiling is probably somewhere in the $400,000 range. But those jobs are hard. There's less and less of those types of opportunities as you progress up, but they are.
Yeah,
there.
I would say that, right. The top end, when you're talking, at the peak of the 300-400, and a significant portion of that, I'd say, is variable compensation.
Yeah.
That's in my mind executive. So that's when
Yep.
You own the entire project management organization. You have all kinds of responsibilities outside of just really managing projects. You might be overseeing kind of investment criteria. You may have external reporting responsibilities. You're going to be deeply involved in a lot more than just managing initiatives. So enormous amounts of pressure. I know while you increase your experience and you increase your value that you add to the organization, and you increase your compensation, there's a commensurate increase in expectations on you, increase in the pressure that you're expected to deal with every day.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, it's funny. Your salary goes up. So does your stress. So does your time commitments, the complexity of the projects, the durations a lot of times, right? So, these larger projects go for years.
The other thing that goes the inverse
Yeah.
is the lower end of things. As you're a project administrator and first starting to learn, you're given very explicit amounts of direction. Set up this meeting for this time with these invitees. You're doing administrative functions where you're getting almost all of the inputs, and you're doing a lot of administrative overhead and work at the low end. As you get higher and higher up, the amount of concrete input into what you're supposed to be doing goes down, such that you might throw problems to an executive to say, I don't like the way that we're currently dealing with something very amorphous and gray. Go solve that. And you're not given any direction, maybe not any budget. You're just told fix it. Yep. And you have to go fix that. So a lot less direction the further on you go.
Yep, and again, and you may find yourself that and again, that's with any career path, right? When you hit certain levels, it might not. You might find your level, and and this is where you want to be, and you enjoy it, and you make a great salary. Great. You may find that this is your peak, and you want to migrate to a different career. I think project management. I will be very positive about it. You can have a lot of influence over the success of things. You get to meet a lot of people. If you like to solve problems or be part of solving problems, I don't know of many careers that give you this many opportunities. Consulting is an offshoot of this. It's essentially, to my mind, it's an expansion on project management, really. It's essentially project management plus all those ancillary things. You may have to do those things as well. But I highly recommend it. It's not for everybody. Again, if you have certain temperaments where certain things stress you out, it might not be for you. But I mean, I don't see a lot of harm in giving it a try if this is something you're considering. Find yourself mentors. I think this is, so we didn't mention this, and it's kind of outside of this, but it's always helpful to identify someone who is doing the role that you want to do, so that you can bounce things off of and check to see if you're crazy. To this day, Braden and I, before we even got on this, we were talking about, like, I even question myself, something I've been doing for 20 years, like I need someone to just check whether or not I'm gone crazy, or and I think finding mentors and others around you, and again, we can't obviously do this at scale, but happy to answer questions as well if you have career type of questions, and I would say in probably the dialogue around the comments, I'm sure there are other people who are. I think it's a good community of people who like to help each other too. I'll say that there are a lot of people in this community who wanna help each other out.
So let me sign off here. So guys, thank you so much for watching today. As always, feel free to leave comments and subscribe if you thought it was worthy of your attention. And never forget that if you think your project problems are bad, just wait till you see the solutions, right? Jim, is that
That's it.
Okay.
So we're trying out taglines. We'll see which one sticks.
I like that one. I thought it was a good one.
I like it. I'm not disagreeing. All right, everybody.
All right. See you next time.
See you guys.